Good day.
I'm Justin. I'm the one you see on the Lightweight Man POV most of the time. Then we got Jared, aka King Daraj. His POV is on the King Daraj Twitch channel.
And if you've seen my Call of Duty gameplay, it's put my dick inside.
Yeah, that's him.
Puma.
And so what's going on here today is we're gonna rewatch some of the stream we did to Diablo 4 and kind of review it and give our outtakes on what it is and kind of what we're hoping to see, what we're expecting to see, and our overall general thought on the game. And yeah, so we're gonna start with my point of view playing the game as the druid and the werebear build I was going for with it, and some of the upsides to it, the downsides to it, and things of that nature. And then we'll move over, review some of his necromancer plays, and then we both have some sorcerer reviews, and we'll watch that as well. And then we can give some talking points on some of the other guys, because we tried them pretty much all out. I think the only one we didn't try was the rogue, right? The rogue. Yeah, I don't think I ever touched the rogue.
Yeah, I never touched the rogue.
Yeah.
I know for sure I ended up playing druid through the prologue or whatever, up until you get, to the open world. And I did the same thing with the barbarian. In the beginning, I seemed to like the barbarian a little bit more.
Yeah. So the barbarian was very overpowered at the beginning of the game, in my opinion. Like, he's very tanky and has some decent DPS as long as you find the right shit to go with it.
Yeah, like one of my favorite things was whenever I unlocked the world.
Oh, dude, whirlwind,
and then you unlock the you get like 6 fury or wrath or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Every time you get a direct hit, and then you also block.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
So.
The survivability. I like the survivability.
Yeah, his survivability was great versus something like, to me, the sorcerer was great as long as you didn't have a big horde of something coming at you.
Absolutely.
Because it didn't have very good splash damage, in my opinion. It had very good chaining damage, but you had to kind of get lucky on the bouncing of the shots that we use, and we'll watch some gameplay on that. So we're going to check out some of this druid plays, and anybody watching, y'all got any input, anything to say, just jump in the chat, let us know what's going on, and let us know what y'all thought.
Absolutely.
We're planning on cutting this into YouTube, so if anybody watching it on YouTube, drop a comment on it. We may come back and make another video talking about your comments, and seeing everything. So let's go ahead and jump into it here. So, at this point in the game, I was level 16, kind of skipped past the lower level stuff because it's kind of basic stuff. You're just kind of getting your character going. You're not really focusing on anything at that point. And right here, what you're seeing is I've built in my werebear build, and this build will actually switch up later on as I get different equipment. And then Jared's following around with his necromancer build.
I will say, so far, the only downside I've seen to the Necros minions is that a lot of the times they would get in the way of Justin whenever he was trying to get up in there and get in their faces. That's really the biggest issue that I had with the minions, and that made me have to change up the way I was playing, solely because I didn't want to get in the way of the party.
Yeah, so from what he's talking about from my standpoint is we run into a lot of battles, and if his minions beat me to the fight, my druid wasn't able to get in and do the direct damage, which to us turned out to be pretty important because the druid was really good at tanking a lot of damage, especially if you build him that way, like what you see down here at the bottom, that number 4 there threw up a rock barrier around me, making me invincible for about 4 seconds. And in 4 seconds, you can do a lot of damage and tank a lot of hits and be able to get past certain abilities that some of these bosses can do, to where they have to wait for their cooldown and, giving us the opportunity to sit there and keep doing that damage. And one thing I always tried to do, you notice I kept my wolves, I relied heavily on the companions for my damage output. At this point in my build, all my stuff was based around using the companions to do crowd control damage, and then I use the wolves like you saw just there, where the wolves jumped in and attacked. What I'm trying to do is get the boss to aggro onto the wolves, but I was making sure I stayed on the boss as well to keep them off of Jared's Necromancer. One thing I think we can both agree on, the Necromancer was kind of a glass cannon.
Oh, absolutely. Necromancer was absolutely a glass cannon. Dishes out a ton of damage, and I would say don't nerf the damage output, and honestly, I would probably leave the survivability around where it is, because that makes it more of the DPS tradition, right? Rather than, you know, here comes the Necromancer to tank the entire fucking lobby.
Yeah, no. The Necromancer, it was definitely really tanky if you had the minions to come in and help out. The minions took the big hit of it.
Oh yeah.
But playing with another, see right there, the rocks I was talking about, now I'm invincible for 4 seconds, keeps me alive, and allows me to tank things like the freezing abilities, the explosions, anything that they would throw out. I can tank that, so I don't have to run out and lose the aggro from whatever we're fighting. And as you can see there, Jared's character kind of running around the guy, making sure he doesn't get hit. Because that, like we said, glass cannon, if he gets hit, he does a lot of damage. So if I can tank all the hits, Jared can tank the, sit there and mainly obliterate anything that comes up.
And honestly, I wish we would have had a little bit more time with the open beta. That would have had a little bit more time to mess around with the Necromancer.
Definitely. And that's the fun thing I've always enjoyed about the Diablo games in general, is your build's never perfect. It's always dependent on what you find. Sometimes you may find one piece of armor that changes up the way you've got to do everything, because that piece of armor is so overpowered compared to everything else you have. As you'll see with my build, at some points later in the stream, I've completely changed up my build. And right now we're just running around, just basically power leveling, hunting. And what we're doing is, in the mini-map you see these little blue areas. That's where these side quests are, and we're just hunting out side quests and getting as much XP as possible. Our whole goal was to max level our characters, that way we get a good feel for them.
Yeah, we were pretty much just trying to get to 25, because that was the level cap for the open beta as fast as possible. That way, you know, we had as much playability with the character that we really wanted to play as.
Right. Now, the downside to, say, the Druid in the open beta, and this is just the open beta. Now, I love the Druid. A lot of people have been giving the Druid some downsides to him, saying he wasn't as
a lot of
powerful.
hate on the Druid.
Yeah. To me, Druid was like top tier for me. One thing I'm keeping in mind with that is so most of these characters, when you hit level 15 with them, they have a ability that you can go. Yeah, you go do a mission and you get it. For me, I wasn't able to get to it because it was outside of the open beta's area.
Same thing with the Barbarian.
Same thing with the Barbarian. Now, being able to do that would have helped me out a lot. Like, you can't really see it due to the follower goal, but there's a whole nother tree here where I can really manipulate what's going on with my companions better. And the companions themselves are just really, really powerful and really, really helpful. They do a lot. A lot. They, between my wolves and the little worm thing, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, that crawls around in the ground around me. The worm was there just to really immobilize, plus it did poison damage. So once I hit a target with it, it would poison them and immobilize them for a short period of time. And my character did extra damage to crowd control people. Crowd control being anything that affects their damage, anything that affects their damage, their movement, anything like that, they're crowd controlled, and my druid did X amount more damage depending on everything I had equipped at that point in time. So, that's where we're at this point. Now, another thing about the druid is he had two weapons he could carry. He could carry a staff, and the staff was very powerful, or you could carry a smaller single-handed weapon with the totem, and you could actually get more damage out of that if you kept up with that, and then you get two sets of abilities out of that versus just the one set that you would get on the staff. So at some point I switch when I think it's when we fight what's the boss's name, Jared? Ashava. Got like 8 legendaries out of Ashava. And
got a good
made it
shit
very good. So what you're seeing, the way I played the werebear a lot was, at this point in time, if I stayed in my werebear form, I took less damage, so it made me play to that tankier advantage way better. So what I'm doing is I stay in the werebear form. I do a couple of mauls where I'm just swinging and hitting, and then after I do that, I build enough spirit to do my pulverize. My pulverize was a great area effect. So my whole, like I keep saying, is I was trying to aggro all the damage to me, and they come on me and fight me. I can then pulverize and do a lot of damage. And then you see there, I throw the worm out to do some more crowd control once Jared's wears off. So Jared equips some crowd control to help my ability to aggro everybody and do more damage. So he was playing to my DPS with his Necromancer, and that's a very important thing to games like this, is being sure you can play to each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses. I'm playing to Jared's weakness by.
And I guess that's one point I'll go ahead and make is with our playthrough of Diablo 4, we're planning on having at least 2 people in the group pretty much the entire time. So we're going for more of a group play rather than solo play. So we're going to be looking at this from a group aspect more rather than solo aspect.
Right. So, to me, games are fun because you get to play them with your buddies and everything. That's why I like streaming them, you know, hoping people join in on the stream and
that's one of the main reasons why we're super excited about Diablo 4. It's cross-plat. Yep. I play on PS5, Chris plays on PS5, Cameron plays on PS5, and Justin's got a PC. So it makes it...
And keep that in mind for anybody watching my FPS games. I'm new to PC. They just get absolutely destroyed. But games like this, you know, they're not as focused on that. It's more focused on you managing your stats, abilities, and things of that nature. To me, Diablo 4 is going to be a great game for anybody interested in that kind of thing. Me, I'm a big fan of grindy games such as like Minecraft, things of that nature. Just anything you got to grind out. Looking to get into more StarCraft stuff too. Big fan of it back in the day. Kind of stopped playing it because I didn't have a computer really for that, but now I do. So.
That's the great thing about Diablo, in my opinion, though. Well, I've been playing Diablo 2 Resurrected recently. That's a pretty grindy one, in my opinion. It's nothing like Diablo 3. It's nothing like Diablo 4. One thing I will say, though, is after playing Diablo 2 Resurrected a little bit, I see a lot of similarities between Diablo 2 and Diablo 4 in the way that they've actually structured the game.
And I feel like that's a good thing about Diablo in general, is all the games kind of have their similarities between them while being separate games altogether. And I feel like that's a big problem a lot of people are having with Diablo 4 is the slight differences from Diablo 3 to Diablo 4. Like, Diablo 3 may have done something better than Diablo 4 did. But that difference to it is what keeps the game unique, keeps the game going good, in my opinion. Now, so I love the way they did the maps, love the way they did the side quests and everything, and we actually probably ran the open beta and max leveled off the side quests, which is how we normally play a Diablo game. When we played Diablo 3, we ran mainly side quests to get our levels up, and then we just went powered through the story.
And then once we were able to, we hit the rifts.
Right.
Just for all the chaos and the carnage.
Yeah, it was more about power leveling as quickly as possible. And sometimes story quest is not the best thing for that because it's such a long mission before you get that boost of XP.
Right.
So.
I think up to a certain point, you know, you do the main quests until you're out in the open world. Then once you're able to actually start doing the side quests, I recommend hitting those a little bit first.
Yeah. So a big thing we did right off the bat is like you see here, we're just running around the open world, we're taking on strongholds, dungeons, just anything we can get our hands on that would give a lot of XP. We're trying to beat all the dungeons, try to get everything maxed out as quickly as possible so we could really see what these characters had to offer as far as those.
Oh, and I wish they would have let you go a little bit more, because that's one of the biggest issues that I had actually with the ultimate abilities. is you couldn't really spec into the ultimate abilities.
Nah.
And unfortunately, I didn't find any legendary gear that made any of the ultimate abilities that I could use.
I don't think I ever actually used the ultimate abilities. I wasn't too interested in them based off what I could do with the others based off the gear I was fighting.
Yeah, and this retouches on what you just said about the games. You know, they're still Diablo, but they're a little different. Like Diablo 3 does something different than Diablo 4. Absolutely, like the Army of the Dead skill in Diablo 3, it's fucking killer. Yeah, it is so OP. And then whenever I used it in Diablo 4, but honestly, all the ultimates for the Necromancer just seem rather lackluster.
What are the barbarians skills?
And I think you could probably agree.
Oh yeah,
The
definitely.
Druid.
With the Druid, honestly, I never made it out of the first 3 skill areas. A little bit into the companion area, as you can see, I'm running the, I need to remember that worm's name, but, and the wolves. The wolves helped out a lot.
We can call them real quick.
Using them, they helped out a lot, you know, and then being able, one thing I loved about the wolves, I was able to focus them on certain things, so especially when I get into boss fights, I may be running around fighting the mini bosses in the area, but I'll focus the wolves onto the main boss of the area to try to make sure they're doing that extra damage, because at some point I unlocked abilities to where my wolves did extra damage based off bosses, and just being able to control everything you have in your area is very important.
So whenever I was using my minions, did they look as solid as yours, or were they like?
They kind of almost looked a little ghost-like, but I could still see them very clearly. So like if we move to the Ashvara, that's his name, right?
Ashava.
Ashava, close enough.
Ashvara.
Sunday night, maybe.
Trying to see, because we were level 18 when we took on Ashvara.
Now you're doing it on purpose.
What's that?
Ashvara.
Oh yeah, I can't, dude, I'm gonna ruin it every time I suck with names. That's why I have nicknames for everybody. So, you remember when we first showed up to the area, there were a bunch of necros.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Armies.
that's how they showed up for me.
Okay.
Which, by the way, the Ashava battle, when we first got to the area, we got there and we didn't see nobody. We were sitting there like, man, we're gonna take on a world boss. We just happened to see it on the map, and we were, oh man, I'm beelining my way over there right now. I really want to be a part of this. We got there and we didn't see nobody. And we were like, this is terrifying. So we stood there for a minute looking around, and then we started running around looking some, and then we found the little army that was sitting there grouped up, which was, for me, was hilarious. Because I was super confident until we fought the world
Bro,
boss.
there's like 10, 12 necromancers there.
Oh yeah, there's an ungodly amount of necros.
And then they all, I think 2 of them had golems out, and then the rest of them had minions of some sort out, and it just looked like a massive army, just waiting to fight Ashava. And it was so invigorating.
So, getting ready to fight Ashava, we were super confident going into it due to everybody being there. Now, the original problem we had was we showed up way too early. We got there, so I saw the 20 minutes. I thought we had 20 minutes to get there and fight him. What it was is it was 20 minutes before he spawned.
Yeah.
So, by the time we had got there, everybody just kind of standing there waiting, and most of the people ended up leaving. So the people that we originally see when we get there here in just a moment are not the people that were there in the final fight. And another thing I really liked about it is if you started a fight, there wasn't no somebody jumping in on the end of it, catching the fight. It started a separate fight for them. Like you'll see, we joined in on a second fight. That we won the first fight, and then the second fight we showed up a little later, but they weren't nowhere near completing. Right here, we're just kind of clearing the area out, going. Jared, I think at this point was still in town getting some stuff done, and I
think I was getting ready.
I was highly worried about being late to it, so I just ran straight
yeah,
for it.
he just took off.
That's my only bad habit when it comes to games like this is I just beeline my way there. And it's like Hammer pointed out in 1, you really want to know where we went, just follow the trail of dead bodies and gold.
was
have a
fucking
perk
amazing.
that as long as I'm a werebear,
Yeah. So
I
that's
take 3% damage reduction.
So that's where I'm showing right there. Iron Fur gives you 3% damage reduction while using the werebear form. So I tried to stay in that form as much as possible until after this fight. Because after this fight, I pick up a legendary item to where the more I change forms, the more damage I do. So anytime I do certain attacks, I would change forms, going from werebear to druid, and then also had some werewolf forms. And I really didn't use a whole lot. I didn't use werewolf, even though most of the legendary gear I found was geared towards
I
the
will
werewolf.
say, whenever I did my short playthrough of the druid, I decided to go with the werewolf because you went with the werebear.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see kind of what that was, and what I noticed more is you get more like attack speed and movement speed out of the werewolf. And so I thought it would be pretty cool at one point to do the druid playthrough with 2 druids. One is the werewolf, one is the werebear. Fucking tearing up the lobbies.
Yeah. So the werewolf, from what I saw, did more damage. Or it had faster damage.
Probably did more DPS.
Probably. It was a little faster with it. The werebear did more
Werebear
damage
more like tank.
quickly. But it was more geared around not getting absolutely destroyed. It's kind of like what you would think about fighting a wolf versus fighting a fucking bear, you know?
Yeah.
The bear gonna do a lot of damage if he hits you. Wolf, if you try to fight a wolf, you just better hope you got a nice gun because he's gonna tear
That
you
there's
up.
not a pack.
Yeah,
Because generally there's a pack of wolves.
Which I think this fight too, you remember at one point my wolves went from wolves to werewolves. I pick up a legendary item that makes all my wolves werewolves. So that's
Hey, I don't understand why everybody's hating on the druid so much.
oh, dude, we enjoyed it.
The druid was dope as fuck. I really enjoyed it, especially whenever I was playing necromancer and Justin and I were running around killing shit. Oh, it was so fun, and the synergy we could get going. Oh,
Now the big thing to keep in mind was is that at one point I do pick up a legendary item that changes my pulverize, and until that point I never did that much damage.
I think these guys do.
Once I pick up that legendary item and equip it, the werebear does mass
is
damage.
the pulverize the...
Yeah, that's where I do the ground
Yeah,
point.
Tyler was telling me that he had ended up getting a legendary for the slam, and he just started doing tremendous damage.
So the slam just does a little slam, but at one point I picked up a legendary that shot little rocks up out of the ground. You saw it, and those rocks did even more damage. I think it was almost like 300-400 more damage per attack. Well, that's incredibly much more because I think pulverize itself did about 100.
I know Tyler also told me he had a legendary that amplified the damage of like the earth sling, rock sling.
So there were a lot of abilities for. So you had a werebear form, a werewolf form, and then you had a earth build that you could do, and also an electrical build you could do. I did the werebear form because I thought it was cool as shit to run around as a bear.
Fucking werebear, bro.
Yeah, like later in this same stream clip, you'll see me fucking with Cameron as we're running around. He goes, "I can do this." And I'm like, "But can you be a bear?"
But are you a bear? But are you a werebear?
So right here, I think it's the choke right before you get to the area for the world boss. And by then, I was super worried we were gonna be late. I was trying to stall for time to let Jared catch up, but I was still trying to beeline my way there. And worked out. He caught up. You know, we're getting there. And you'll notice we had played this all completely together. There was no separate time. The only difference is I think I turned in more side quests. Hence why you see a little level difference between us. Like Jared's almost level 19 at this point, and I just came level 19. So right here is where we made it to the world boss area. This whole area to me was crazy, and then this kind of freaked me out. So then so we ran around, we didn't see nobody, and we're like, what? Well, we saw the yellow dot. We didn't see all the yellow dots at first. We weren't paying attention to that. We were looking at this big mouth thing, and we thought it was like a portal
Well,
we
it
had to jump in.
begins in 20 minutes.
This is where we find out.
The more people you're waiting on.
Oh yeah.
And then,
Look at all the necromancers. That's one thing I will say that's super cool about the necromancer. You can have all 3 summons out at once. So you can either have the regular minions, so you have sword and shields, and then there were 3 different variations I believe you could do with them. One was a Reaper, one was a defense, more of like a defensive minions and then the regular sword and shield minions. My buddy Tyler told me that with the shield minions, it's really good for bosses because they'll go up and get the aggro of the boss, and the boss, what he noticed whenever he was playing Necromancer is that the boss never hit him.
Really?
He was able to just keep dishing out damage because
I just
his
love
minions
that
were
we
taking
walk
all the
over
aggro from the
four
boss.
people
Yeah.
standing there like,
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. But those were the same ones that got it just as well.
I was like, we
The,
got
the
20
shield,
minutes to get
with
there.
the
Go.
defensive variant of the regular minions. Those are the ones that got your way. And eventually, I think in this fight, I'm running the Reaper minions, maybe.
Yeah, I believe so. You kept saying something about
But yeah, I say
that army had us so confident.
that's so awesome to see. That's so
All you guys
That's
are
so
gonna
fucking
carry
fun.
me.
So I'm gonna try to fast forward just a little bit into the actual fight while we keep going here. So is at this point we got about 18 minutes before it starts.
yeah. One thing that I really liked about the Reapers, though, is one of the variations was they had a 15% chance to rip off flesh, and it makes a corpse on the ground.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about me, I really like using the corpse explosion.
Yeah.
And it does so much fucking damage. It does so much damage in this game. More damage than it did in Diablo 3 for sure.
I'm starting to see more.
And one thing that's super cool about it is you can put extra points
Yeah.
into each skill to make that skill strong.
Right.
And that's one of the things I ended up doing.
That
with
comes
the
down to
corpse
skill
explosion.
point management.
Yeah.
Like, just like any game, you got to manage the resources and the levels and abilities. So what you're seeing here is we had run back to town, leveled up our health potion
Everybody
some,
else had,
and just did some basic
big old,
leveling up
like, full
stuff.
lobby.
And we come back, and you notice it's a different army. It's not as
They could've
large
been
as
like
the
us
last
and
one
not
was.
known it was a thing.
Like I'm talking about there, they could have been like us, not knowing that.
Because we didn't know
It was 20 minutes.
So it looks like there's only 6 other people there.
I'm like, go!
So what we're waiting on now is that timer countdown to see this boss come out. Even with these, just the few people that were here versus originally when they were there, I was still highly confident in what was going to happen, and we still had people showing up.
I'm gonna go pop my elixir.
And so right here, I'm taking an elixir to give me 5% more XP for 30 minutes because I really wanted to get as much out of this fight as I could.
So my armor's increased.
One thing I will say, you notice when I opened up my character screen there, I had a couple of legendaries. I think I ran the sorcerer for a while.
Less than
And
a minute.
hardly got any legendaries. By the end of this fight, I was 100% legendary.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It was either a hit or a miss.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat
So
with my
many
sorcerer. I didn't get too many
necromancers.
legendaries. I got a couple. The main one that I really got, there were 2 I know for sure that I got that gave me the barrier damage. Whenever I got hit by things, it would throw up the barrier. And if you were standing there, it would make you immune for however many seconds.
It makes us look way more powerful having all these.
Oh yeah, it makes us look like we're an actual army. Just
So
go
here
fucking
we
fight
15
someone.
seconds from the boss spawning, and like I keep saying, super confident. We were super confident. Running around, getting ready. Level 19, he's
That's
level
right,
18.
that's right.
We're surrounded by level 17 or 25, and only a couple of lower level guys like us.
To be fair,
But felt very confident based off every boss we have fought up to this point. I thought, I'm gonna run in, tank his hits,
We really did too.
and then we see this monster come out.
Yeah,
and
and
you
then
hear
the
me.
screen
Oh.
pans out. It pans
Yeah.
out even more, and you're like, oh.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you can hear my surprise there. And then, so
Took us a minute to figure out his moveset too.
yeah,
At one point, I just remember I was watching everybody else, and they just stayed in the group underneath him,
yeah.
and that's his blind spot. Pretty much was right
So
underneath.
I was super confident staying up underneath and fighting him, and at some point he takes me out really quick. And
I think it's that whirlwind move
yeah,
he does.
so right there he bit me and took all my health out, and I was fortified too, so I have like 1.5 times my normal health.
Jeez. So he would have one-shotted you most likely.
He almost took me out if I wouldn't have had the fortify. But right here I'm running away now to try to stay out of that.
Yeah. The thing about that though is it ticks damage as well.
Yep.
Once it hits you, it'll tick damage after the initial impact, and that it ticks so much damage.
So y'all keep in mind, you keep seeing these dead bodies off there. We didn't know until about halfway through this fight that you can revive people.
Oh shit.
And that you should.
Yeah.
You should, because if you see, you will lose 10% equipment or durability every time you respawn at the checkpoint. So what's cool about it is if you go down in a regular boss fight, group of 4, not doing the war boss, so to say, you know, you could revive your teammate. And what's cool about it is it doesn't reset every time you run off. So you can revive up to a certain point. If you're about to get hit, you can jump off, run off, come back, and it'll basically be right at the same point. But what's really good about it is whenever you do revive them, it gives you all of your health. And you don't lose any durability.
So it's almost better to take the death and get more health potions in a decent spot in the fight, like between them summoning minions and things like that to help them out. Taking that death and getting your health potions back, knowing they're going to be able to revive you and it's not going to affect your armor, is a big help. So by this point, I had figured out that I was getting absolutely destroyed every time I went in there. So I was trying to stay back out of the fight. And you keep seeing me revive at checkpoint because I didn't know they could be revived. Even though I had seen it, I didn't know what was happening. I just thought, you know, maybe it was a necromancer thing and it was like an ability of the necromancer to be able to revive your teammate, which I thought was a really cool thing. But I knew Jared was tied up with the fight just like I was, and I could just respond.
Immediately, just as soon as I walked up, he was like, nope.
He slayed 4 or 5 of us with that one attack just now.
So that little sweeping attack he did was the most powerful attack he had, and that's why at some point we all in the lobby figured out if you stand underneath him, that's not a big deal. And you notice we're not doing a whole lot of damage at this point because nobody can really figure it out. And this is when, by this point, our confidence had died. We were like, I don't know how we're going to do this.
We were eventually like, maybe we shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
Especially with that, dude. Oh, that move does so much damage.
I died several times fighting this guy. It was probably my most deaths the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Consecutive deaths? Absolutely.
Didn't you see some stats on how many people this guy ended up killing?
I actually think I may still have the screenshot.
See if you can pull the stats on that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, so players that died by a Shaba. 4,291,644.
Like, I don't stand a
4.2 million people
Died
to this world boss. A Shaba was killed 33,165 times, and one of us was those. Let's fucking go. Though I did get butchered. I don't know if you got butchered. You remember who the butcher was? He was like a random boss that spawned. So players who got butchered was 568,677. And I believe this is like a rough estimate. And then people who killed the butcher was 128,176. Now,
I think the butcher's the one we fought when we did the world event with what was the name of that?
No, the butcher is a random spawn. He'll randomly spawn on you in the game. At least from the information that I picked up on the butcher, he's like a random.
Okay.
Like you'll be going and doing something, and the game's like, here you go.
A little Dark Souls moment.
Yeah.
Just like, you look like you're having fun. Let's ruin that. So still, we're about halfway through the fight, and I think at this point is when I figured out what we could resurrect people. So now we're dropping resurrects. This is when I decided, as a druid, I'm going to be a medic.
I'm going to be a medic. So get this, total monsters killed. 9 billion, 241,854,409.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. It says total hours played, 20,814,758 hours played. So this game was popping, dude. This game was booming.
Oh, dude, it was so bad. There were hour wait times for the queues to get into the open beta. Now, when the game comes out, I imagine they're going to be running more servers, and you'll run into less of that. But,
oh, yeah, I'm sure.
It was a lot. See, by now, this is when everybody figured out being right up underneath him is the way to do it.
You got to watch out for that, too. Whenever
Yeah,
he throws his arms back right there, it's just as bad as the whirlwind. I found that out.
So by this point, all my stuff was almost destroyed from respawning so much, so I was definitely staying back a lot, trying to keep people alive. And trying to keep them from losing all their durability, because having all these people was helping. And by now, you see, we have definitely started doing a lot more damage, because we've all kind of figured out how the game works at this point, how this guy works. He's got a lot of attacks, and like I said, everybody had figured out, stay behind him, stay underneath him. walking right
I just
there.
got wasted.
People go out.
Hey, Justin.
Stuff keeps
Justin,
happening.
revive.
Yeah.
I'll save your army.
I think it does because it doesn't tell me that.
Yeah, that's where we just figured out that we
Yeah,
don't
we
lose
had
their
been back
ability.
there, and that's where I was like, yeah, just revive everybody. And this is where we're talking about, you know.
And the whole lobby picked up on that too.
Yeah, so everybody's reviving everybody, and that was our big thing. Keep people alive. You notice people stop respawning as much. And we're all just trying to keep each other alive. This Kuda guy, he was a level 16 guy, definitely under leveled just like us being here. He did a lot of what we were doing, staying back, keeping people alive.
It's better to get in closer to him because that attack.
This is where Jared told me and figured out, you get up underneath him, he won't
He's
hurt
got
you.
the dead spot.
Exactly.
Yeah, so if you imagine it like a couple circles, he's got the dead spot right under him, and then he's got this area that goes around that whirlwind, and then he's got the outer, and you're completely safe. So
He had
if you're in
very
that dead
few
spot-
attacks that would do damage right up close. And but it was in front of him. That's why you see everybody staying under him and behind him. And like I just pointed out there, everybody had figured out
God,
you can kill him.
now I can't even get in there on him because it keeps throwing that fucking windmill attack. I'm dead.
So at the end of this fight, we actually got a lot.
Revived you a million times.
So one thing about the game I really like is all loot is independent.
It's all instanced.
It wasn't going to be one of those where we had to run around and a piece of loot come out. It may be for me, maybe for him. It was character specific. So I could pick up all the loot on my screen, and there still be loot laying on the ground for Jared. And it was very diversified, so it was very helpful. That way, loot management wasn't a big deal. One thing I didn't like as much is the gold pickups. I couldn't pick up the gold for both of us, and it just gave it to both of us.
Yeah.
I had to pick it up, and then he had to pick it up.
Yeah, hopefully they capitalize on that. Hopefully that's a thing. And one thing that I did hear is if you have your Battle.net account linked to your PlayStation account and or your PC account or whatever, if you hit level 20 in the open beta with any of the characters, you'll get a little wolf companion at the start of launch. That is like the pets from Diablo 3 that run out and grab the gold for you. Which I will say is going to be a huge help, because I can't tell you how inconvenient it was whenever we were trying to just run through areas real quick, and you fucking you destroy something and it drops gold, but it drops the gold behind you, and you're already running this way. So you're running, you press X on it, and then it drops behind you, so you have to make the loop run, pick it up, and then keep going. And it just kept happening. So having the pet is definitely going to be a huge help.
Definitely.
Not going to be turning around as much just to pick up gold.
Definitely. So, Shaba went down because we're the goats. The whole lobby worked together very well. I was very happy with everybody that was there. Did a lot of damage. Picked up 4 legendaries and a Shaba spoils. Funny thing for anybody that actually watched the stream, if you haven't, I'm going to tell you right now. I found the Shaba spoils way faster than Jared did. I don't
know exactly, because I picked up everything that I saw on the ground. I picked up every single thing that I saw on the ground, and the spoils of a Shaba was not one of them.
Yeah,
it was
so
not
it
one of
was
them.
that little. Yeah, that was the first thing I picked up.
That little box thing right there.
And I found it, and I was like, I got all this extra stuff, and Jared was almost mad because he's like, why didn't I get that?
Yeah,
I thought it was like a unique drop thing, because if you notice when he went down, I beelined that and picked it up.
Oh, dude, with this axe, I'm gonna have to change my whole build, but it's gonna be worth it.
So you
This
changed
is
your
the
whole
axe
build,
that I was talking about, and the axe did a lot of damage, and it had some cool stats. Let me see if I can back up and look at that.
Oh, but essentially what ended up happening, and I heard this recently
That was awesome.
in another video,
That was awesome.
is they are implementing like a lost loot system solely for legendaries. I think it can only store up to 10 legendaries at a time in your stash, and if you don't pull them out, you'll lose the extra other 10 that you don't pick up or whatever,
Right.
So that's cool, and that's what happened with Shaba Spoils. Is I ended up going back to my stash to store some stuff, and I saw it sitting there in my stash, and I was like, "Where the fuck did that come from?"
Yeah.
And I heard that video, And I was like, oh, okay, so that makes sense. So if you end up missing any legendaries,
Back to town.
you know, in your runs and you end up going to town, just periodically check your stash and you may have a legendary sitting there because you may have missed it. Just remember though, you only get, I believe, up to 10 in that lost loot stash.
Oh,
So
dude,
make sure you get them.
legendary.
Otherwise you'll start losing them.
Hell yeah. So right here is the axe I found where I changed up how I was playing the character. So up to this point I'd been using Maul, which turns me into a werebear, and he just slings out, does the hit. Well, when I picked this up, as you can see the stats on it, the lucky hit up to 17% chance of dealing lightning damage to overload a target for 3 seconds, causing direct damage you deal to them pulse 322 additional damage to surrounding enemies. So a big area effect out of something that normally only attacks 2 or 3 people. So when I got that, I switched out of my Maul form and went back to a lightning attack that I do, which caused me to change forms a lot. Also picked up an item that the more I change, the more damage I do, so that number really beefed up a lot, and it turned the druid from being a decent damage character and a real good tank to a good damage character and a good tank on top of it. Really helped out a lot. But I was losing out on the Iron Fur perk where I did 3%, took 3% less damage. So if any point I needed to use that, I still kept Pulverize attached, and I could Pulverize real quick, tank the hit, taking that little bit less damage, and then go back to doing my attacks. Trying to micro that stuff was a big deal. Took me forever to find rings too. Once I finally found some good rings, I was highly excited. And this is me studying the axe, trying to figure out what's going on. It was actually a little weaker than the axe than what I was using, but it was a two-handed weapon. Gained Fortify when using Earth skills, so the rocks is an Earth skill, and I got the Fortify, which gave me more health, making me more tanky.
That's another thing I wish we would have gotten an opportunity to do. I think one thing I noticed is that a lot of the passive skills you didn't unlock until after your ultimates. So we didn't get a real good chance to see a lot of those passive skills. I mean, yeah, you had passive perks that you could do, like, you know, the damage reduction, the Iron Fur that you had.
Oh, and there's more! Jared, did you get the item, the Spools of Vapor?
But wait! There's
In your
more!
inventory should have been
I love how in this little clip of me playing this, I called this boss 6 different names, and not one of them were the right name. Like right there, I just called it Ava.
It's on the ground.
That's amazing.
This is where I find my favorite relic. Hold on. Back up just a few seconds.
Is the relic the totem?
Yeah, the totem. So I found a bunch of good legendaries out of here. Like I said, I got 8 out of this fight. So I took the axe, so I had room for a totem, and then when I got the totem, I was super excited to put it with it, especially when I saw how much damage it did. So right here, I got Grizzly Rage. Now shapeshift you into a dire werewolf. As a dire werewolf, you gain 24% movement speed instead of damage reduction and 48 spirit cost reduction. So that slam I do a lot helped out. And I think at this point I actually switched over to another ability where I can morph into a werewolf and re-heal myself some and be able to use this totem to run out. At the end of the day, I didn't stick with that very long, stuck with another deal based off some of the other abilities I got. And but I still use this based off the amount of damage it did, not to mention 6.5% spirit cost reduction, because my whole build became based off that pulverize attack. And then healing received plus 4% crowd control duration, and then 4% damage reduction while fortified. So being fortified was a big deal for my character. The more fortified I could get, the better I was doing. Yeah, a lot of damage per hit, 1.5 attacks per second. It was very fast, did a lot of damage really quickly. So, got a lot of good stuff out of this fight. Definitely, when the game comes out, if you're looking for a lot of good stuff, go to those world events, be a part of them. You know, worst thing that happens is you don't get them, you didn't lose anything. You may have to spend some money to refix your stuff. Just remember, you can revive people, they can revive you.
I don't think Twitch saved my, I don't think Twitch has my Necromancer stream anymore.
We'll go double check shortly, but if not, you know,
So I was
we can
checking.
still talk it. And so the druid, you know, very good all-around character. Based up to this point, I had run the barbarian slightly before this. I think I put him to like level 16, and then Jared joined in, and we switched. Now I built the barbarian in the original open beta for the people that had pre-purchased, and running it, the barbarian was a very nice, good experience. Didn't like the barbarian until I got the whirlwind attack though. Wasn't a big fan. But so yeah, got a lot of good stuff out of this fight. World events were the most fun part of the open beta for me.
I mean, that's where we got our best loot, in my opinion. At least for the Necromancer, I believe that's where I got my best loot as well.
It wasn't like other games where it's not worth it to go. It's just, you don't just go for the prestige of being there and wrecking. There was a reason to be there, and it wasn't one of those world events where they didn't take into account how many people were going to be there. They actually made the boss a pain.
Yeah, no, the boss had health, man. And not only did he have health,
he
dished damage as well.
Like,
he dished a lot of damage.
He was almost too overpowered, which you'll see here shortly.
Nobody in that group of like 10 or 12 people that were fighting him lived.
Yeah, no,
everyone died
at least once.
At least once. Everyone.
He did a lot of damage.
I've got so much shit now, I don't know what I want to use.
Yeah, so right here, like I said, at this point, I'm almost legendaried out after that fight. I picked up 8 legendaries. One thing I was really appreciative of it is it didn't just throw me like 8 rings or something stupid that I wouldn't be able to use. It was a good mix. One thing I'm really hating at this point, looking at everything, is everything's based off of werewolf, and I've been building straight werebear, and I wanted more stuff for the werebear, and there wasn't just anything for it. Based off some research you've been doing, Jared, they're supposed to be coming. We only saw half of the legendaries.
Yeah. So I believe it's one of the head developers. I don't remember which one. But he was saying that the codex only had half of the overall legendary. The codex that was in the beta only had half the overall legendaries that they will have.
It may have just dropped one, and I was just beelining that.
So the werebear build, and that's one thing I was telling Justin whenever we were playing. You know, was hopefully, since we're just playing the beta, they didn't give us everything. They didn't allow us to.
And of course, a lot of things probably aren't ready. And some of the legendaries they could have dropped probably would have just made the open beta boring because you'd be too overpowered for where you are at that point in the game. Because from what I remember, most of the legendary loot we were finding wasn't past, say, level 18.
Yeah,
most of it was for like lower level legendaries.
Yeah.
And it was strange to me, but you know, it makes sense. The higher level stuff, higher level abilities, and even by the end of it with the loot we were finding, it was like right there, my helmet I'm running is level 3, that's a level 17. Love the helmet, I just love the way it looked mostly. I thought it was cool.
I love the transmog system.
Yeah.
The transmog system that they have in this was really good. I've heard a lot of people talking about they wish there was a lot more character creation, which I saw that they said they will be adding it over time.
And I would think, you know,
then I have bone weave
they'll definitely have to come out with some more.
While injured, your
or they will. The big thing a lot of people didn't do is take into account is there's a lot of different appearances for armor, and the way to unlock a lot of it is you got to salvage it, and you may get something you don't salvage.
Ballistic adventurer's boots.
My character, for example, everything legendary. I'm not salvaging a legendary. One thing I did find that I liked a lot that a lot of people may not like is the legendaries were account bound. So you can't go in and give them to a buddy so he can go and run the game early on and just beat it.
Yeah, no, you'll actually have to help them.
You'll actually have to grind them.
Unfortunately, that may be.
You'll have to grind. Which for me was a good thing because I played with Diablo 3 with a buddy, and now
weapon though.
We get bored, log into a game. He'd come in with his level 300, 400 monk and just drop me a bunch of stuff for my demon hunter, and I'd be level 100 in 20 minutes just following him around in a race.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. My buddy ended up dropping me a modest weapon for my necromancer, and it just makes it to where like I do like 1,000 attacks per second, so the damage output is ungodly. I do like over 250 mil per hit.
Yeah, so It kind of takes fun out of it. Right here, we went to the second Ashava fight. And,
but my favorite thing about Diablo, and hands down, and will always be my favorite thing about it, is that you can group play. Is that you can get together with your buddies and y'all can fucking fuck shit up. Just do a fucking massacre. The more people you have in the group, the more enemies spawn. Makes it a little bit harder. You know, you can always boost the level, make it a little bit more difficult, make it a little bit more grindy. One of the things that I really enjoy about Diablo. If you want it to be just a super chill, fun experience, you can. If you want it to be a super grindy experience, you can. You have the playability. It's there. They have it for you. My buddy Chris was talking the other day about, you know, he was looking for more games to play with his kids. And I was like, you know, Diablo 3 would be a good one. Y'all can all play on the same screen. Y'all can all play same characters. Y'all can play different characters. You can make it easy. You can make it hard. It's a good game to play with.
That's one thing I've always enjoyed about Diablo is being able to set the difficulty where you want it. If you want it to be the easiest game in the world, it's the easiest game out there. If you want it to be the most challenging thing you've ever done in your life, it can be that. With the, what is it? Torment? The torment system.
Which I'm not, I haven't heard too much about the torment system in this one, or if they even call it the torment system.
What I've seen in this is we were able to go up to World Tier 2. There was World Tiers after that, but I think you have to beat the game first.
Yeah, I think you have to be over level 50. Yeah. I think World Tier 1 and 2 was from 1 to 50. And from what I've heard, the level cap, the character level cap is 100. And in Diablo 3 it was 70. So there's 30 extra levels before you hit Paragon rank. And so from what I've heard, there's something called the Tree of Whispers, which is going to be like a daily challenge kind of thing. You can go there and get daily bounties to do every day. I guess just to make it a little bit more playability for the player. They're adding that as well. Let's see, they're adding the Fields of Hatred, which is going to be a PvP area, and I believe it's also PvP PvE area, which I believe is in game. I may be wrong on that. Trying to think of what else I heard.
Okay, I want to go fight something to see how this is going to work.
One thing that's really cool is that they allow you to respec pretty much the entire time. You don't have to go into any special towns, talk to a special NPC to respec or anything. It just takes in-game gold, and you get plenty of it.
Yeah.
From what I saw, you get plenty in-game gold.
I think by the time we finished the open beta, I was up to like 300,000 in-game gold,
yeah,
and that's what we spending it.
Yeah, I was close to it, and you get a good bit of what was it, Oobles?
Oobles. That's what we call them. I don't know if that's what it is, but I'm definitely calling it Oobles because that's hilarious.
Yeah, the special currency for one of
the Curiosity Vendor.
Curiosity Vendor.
So the Curiosity Vendor, they had another version of it in Diablo 3, can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but you go there and you buy equipment with a random chance of getting legendary, rare, whatever, and it was definitely nice. And then right here I played with my character creation a little bit. You go to the wardrobe and you can change how they look and everything.
Yeah, the transmog system in this game is pretty dope. I really liked it.
And then here I'm just buying stuff because I got the money.
Oh, you can make presets.
Yeah. You can preset armor and things like that. So, big old burly man.
So
I saw a video on that the other day. Actually, maybe it was last night. There's this one dude talking about it that he thought it was interesting that they made the character build for the druid just a big old dude, because like in Diablo 2, it's kind of like a rather scrawny person.
I mean, a dude able to morph into a bear, you would think it's a big old burly dude. Like, you look at him, you're like, that's a bear.
Yeah, but I mean, it's magic.
Yeah.
So,
anything's possible.
Anything's possible. But one thing he was saying is he was surprised that there wasn't like a physical appearance editor to make him more skinny, bigger.
Yeah.
I personally
didn't care.
I don't mind just the generic preset characters that they had. I don't really need an in-depth character customization, because the problem that I have with that is every time there's an in-depth character customization, I spend 30 minutes doing it, and I barely change anything.
Yeah.
Every time.
See, me, I'm not big on the character. Now, me, I love the story behind the game. Love watching this when the game first comes out. Definitely, if y'all want to see the story behind the game, just come hang out with us on the stream because I'm going to be watching all the cutscenes. And based off some of the bugs I ran into with some of the cutscenes, I'm really hoping they're still there because they were absolutely hilarious. Jared can attest to it. Was absolutely hilarious.
I have to complete a quest to unlock it.
So this is where I found out that I had the Druid Spirits of the Lost Grove quest where I could level up my Druid and get his special abilities unlocked. What I hadn't figured out yet is that I can't get to it. And me and Jared tried to beeline to get to it, and then the game tells us we need to turn around immediately.
See, that's one thing that I really didn't appreciate about the
That's a
open
big thing
beta
for me
is
is
it
I don't
didn't
want to
allow
look up a build.
2 of the 5 characters to actually use their special ability.
Well, it's like
At least for the Necromancer and the Sorcerer, I know for sure you get them between like level 12 and 15. You get the Book of the Dead with the Sorcerer at like
Build, he wouldn't try anything else.
level 10 or 12, I think. Something like that. And then you go the whole open beta without even getting a taste of what the Druid
Now, the
is like.
thing that made me very hopeful for that is that the Druid and the Barbarian were able to hold their own.
They're able to hold their own without their special class abilities with the high DPS characters.
Right.
And see, that's why I think, you know, maybe they should leave the survivability of the Sorcerer and the Necromancer where they are.
Yeah. I really think having the survivability lower on those characters where their damage is a little bit higher gives you a reason to bring your friends into it, play it with other people.
Absolutely.
And for Diablo 4 to be as successful as some of the other ones, that's kind of a big aspect of it, especially for me. Well, me, I prefer to play video games with my friends. You know, that's kind of why I do it, not so much just to do it by myself. You know, do I like grinding some games out by myself? Yeah, you know, sometimes it's cool.
Sometimes. For the
Most
most
of the
part.
time, that derives off of competing with my friends to have the best character in the game. I got a competitive side to me. So what you'll notice here, everybody watching, is now I have 3 wolves instead of the 2 you've seen me following around the whole time. Found a piece of armor that gives me a 3rd companion for my main companion line, whichever one I'm running. So now I've got the extra wolf. I hadn't quite picked up the one that turns them into werewolves yet. When I get that one, my wolves start doing mass damage. And I think by this point, I hadn't realized how powerful my companions were. I knew they did a lot of damage, but you notice I'm not focusing them a whole lot. I'm really just focusing on making sure my character's doing all the damage because I needed to do a lot. When I find out that they can turn into werewolves, and I run around with werewolves, and I'm a werebear, and then I can sit there and do damage to, I can send them in before the fight to start tanking damage, and do a lot of damage. It was a whole different game. Really started relying on my companions a lot during that. So, Druid is going to be great for companions. It's going to be great for tanking a lot of damage. Still does quite a bit of damage depending on what you have with it. Like I said before, I got the legendaries.
Way over there.
It wasn't. I just wasn't doing as much damage as I was hoping for.
Druids,
But as I started getting more equipment, more able to level up more things, it was definitely a lot better, a lot more enjoyable for me.
it unlocks my build.
I mean, I can honestly definitely say I had a great time playing this game. Especially playing as the Necromancer, grouped up with the Druid. Yeah, oh, it's such a nasty combo. They work very well together, in my opinion.
So we've hit around the subject a lot, Jared, but what do you think of just overall character diversity?
What do you mean?
So like the difference in all the characters, saying like the Druid to the Sorcerer to the Necro to the Barbarian. Just to me, I feel like there was a good diversity between them. There was a different way to play the game with each one.
Absolutely, yeah. I would agree with that 100%. As far as the overall diversity goes between class to class to class, they all play different.
Yeah.
They
You can't just beeline the same kind of way. Like my Druid, y'all notice I run head into everything. Where Jared playing the Necromancer, he's not a head in runner.
I kind of sit back a little bit.
He waits for something to start tanking the damage, whether it be his minions, me, whatever it may be.
Ah, damn.
Barbarian the same way. Barbarian can run into a fight, but the Barbarian's got to do it in a different way than the Druid does. The Druid, I can pick one thing and fight it because I've got companions that can pick off the other things. The barbarian really needs to go in there like the whirlwind effect, spin around in there and take out everything around it. Really draw the attention of everything all at once, where I can sit there and attack one thing, send the wolves over here to attack another. If they start running off, use my
when you found that,
worm to come up and take out the rest of them.
Then you're like, yeah.
I'm pretty excited to see how a 4-man group runs.
Yeah.
Builds
The group I'm interested to see is the druid, the barbarian, the sorcerer, and the
Necro. I feel like that's a very solid group. If you don't have the sorcerer, then I would say maybe the rogue.
Yeah.
Because he's the trapper. He can definitely help control the battlefield a little bit more than pretty much all the other characters. That's one thing I can say about the rogue, is his crowd control ability is superior than all the others.
Now, one thing I'm hoping to see fixed, a couple of downsides to it, ran into a lot of bugs where it was hard for me to get out of town.
And you know, that may just have been a server issue.
Yeah, the server being overloaded, and the only way to fix it was to teleport back to the town I'm already in
To
and
reset
try to
the
run
area.
out again.
Yeah, you had to refresh the area and try to get out.
And that's probably, like Jared said, it's probably a server area. I hope there's more servers and they're a little bit better set up to maintain stuff like that. Because the little rubber banding I ran into in some areas
Yeah,
did get quite annoying at some point.
The rubber banding, I had more issues with rubber banding than I did with the invisible walls getting me out of the town.
Yeah.
Because I'd be sitting there trying to find, and that's one thing that really pissed me off, is the rubber banding on the minimap. So I'd be sitting there trying to find Justin and tell me he's in this spot, but he's actually way the fuck over here. And I'd be like, where the fuck?
So there was a lot of...
But you know, that's not game breaking.
No.
That's nowhere near game breaking in my opinion. That's definitely something that can get buffed out in 2 months.
melted.
Yeah, it's nothing bad.
Absolutely melted.
You know, and even if there is slight rubber banding issues in the beginning, it'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I expect there to be some kind of server issues with it first coming out because a lot of people are going to be playing it, but as people start kind of dying off, going back to the games they're playing, I really hope those line out. And if they could beat it just at the punch, it'd be great. I mean, honestly, there weren't a whole lot of bugs that I would say that needed to be fixed in it myself that I'd seen. The biggest one was the rubber banding and some of the lagging trying to get it out of town, running into the brick walls. There was a bug in one of the cutscenes where my guy's eyes were floating like right here.
And the eyes were still in the socket, so it looked like
was
the eyes just duplicated.
Absolutely
like a foot from the face.
Yeah, just, it was awesome. Like, I find that it was during a cutscene, and I think it was when we were playing with Cameron.
Especially
Probably
if I
would've
crowd
been
control them before I
closer
get there,
to
they just
being-
fall over.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then
We
my
beelined
council
it with
controls,
Cameron.
Oh yeah. Anytime they're crowd
No. Whenever that happened, it was still just me and you.
Oh yeah, it was me and because when we went back with Cameron, I was hoping it would happen again.
Yeah.
We're still headed in the right direction.
It may have been in another stream.
entering restricted area, turn back now.
Yeah, so right here, couldn't get to the
Can I not
druid
get
area.
to it?
Really upsetting. Couldn't even get to the next mission.
Super upsetting.
This quest cannot be progressed with this version of the game.
It was me trying out different ways. I'm like, I want to run around this way
They
then.
won't let me do it.
Oh, that's pretty gay.
Well,
Yeah.
that was a waste.
Highly upsetting.
It's all good.
Highly upsetting.
Where'd
So,
you next?
as far as the druid goes, guys, I really think that kind of covers everything for the druid. I mean,
The main story that were highly overlooked.
my opinion versus what most people believe, great character.
Yeah, and I would second that. Just the small time that I played with the druid, I really enjoyed it. The only thing I would say is I wish I had more time. I wish I would have had more time to play because I would have really liked to do some group play as the druid to actually feel more of what the druid plays later in the game. But I didn't get that. I didn't get the chance. I definitely played Necromancer to the full extent as I could. And then we played Sorcerer a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm thinking we can go over, switch to the Sorcerer review and check that out. I may put us on a quick pause real quick for anybody watching. I'm going to go get me some more coffee.
Yeah, take a quick
Get the
little
video
break.
set up and everything, and then we'll come back and look at some sorcerer gameplay. Anybody watching up to this point? Glad y'all are here. And anybody watching on the YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, you know.
Yeah, join the conversation. Give
Join
us
the
your thoughts and
conversation. Let us
opinions.
know what you think. If you think we're crazy and don't know what the fuck we're talking about, we're cool with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at this from a pure fan standpoint.
Oh yeah. not
I'm
professional
just super
gamers,
excited
no.
to play Diablo 4. From my honest opinion of it, it's a super solid game. It felt super smooth to play besides, you know, all the server issues. Well, I say all the server issues, but the minimal server issues that there actually was. The game feels really good to play, and I had a great time playing the open beta. Absolutely.
So, alright guys, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back, and we're going to review some sorcerer footage, and I'm going to double check, see if I can find some necro footage off of Jared's stuff, and be able to review that. If I can't, then
So be it.
we'll just talk about it in between. Not a big deal. So, alright guys, we'll be back.
Very good. I must fix.
Huh?
I said, very good, sir. I must fix.
Me too. That's exactly why we're taking a break. I feel like we did really good with that.
Yeah.
Like, we kept the conversation.
Yeah, I was gonna say there wasn't much to get.
That's an hour of shit around the breakdown.
Was it an hour? That's good. Honestly, I thought it was only 30 minutes.
Oh, dude, it's now we're done.
And it takes us to a dungeon, sir.
Let's go.
Right. Yeah, you good?
I like dungeons.
That's basically all these games are, dungeon runners, but
Give me all of the enemies. Yeah, it's basically a dungeon crawler, looter, shooter type of game.
talked to Cameron earlier. He said he got in and saw a 10-minute queue, and he's like, yeah. Your mage does some damage too.
Oh yeah. Right now I have it set to the cold mages, and every 2 seconds. Well, actually, let me go read what it says. Each time your cold mage damages enemies with their primary attack, you gain 2 essence.
Heck yeah.
So I have 3 of those guys, and then with
Oh, so you can set which ones you have. And how many
And then I'll-
each.
well, I can't set how many each I have. They have set. They have limited numbers,
Yeah.
but I can set which ones I want, so to say.
So I found out the reason I got the third wolf is because my armor grants me an extra.
So the Reapers that I have with the sides, they have a 15% chance to drop the wolves. And then I already have like a 20% chance to drop the wolves.
But yeah, I'll say I think our commentary on that is very good.
I agree.
Like, we're good at keeping it going. We did. I don't think we had any death songs.
I don't think we did. There may have been a slight pauses every once in a while.
Yeah.
But one thing I tried to capitalize on is whenever you weren't talking, or whenever I thought you would pause for a second, I try to say something.
Yeah. Chris just came online. Yeah, I feel like our commentary was very good. It's definitely better than I thought it was going to be, not going to lie.
You tell that faggot to get in the Discord. Hang out with him.
He never joins the Discord, but it's just me.
Because he's gay. No, you're gay.
Gameplay pulled up, and this is going to be through the stream window, so I may have to move the face cam over here.
Wait, I'm sorry?
This one's the actual, when I first put the overlay on. So I may move it over there. Face cam. Or just leave it. More about us talking. Where did the mic pick up on something like that? Unless that mic picks it up.
Should be.
Is the sorcerer where we fought the second world event, or was that still? I think it's still.
Yeah, I don't think we touched the wood with the sorcerers.
Yeah, we kept looking for it.
Yeah, I don't think there was any spawns.
Yeah, that was depressing.
I think it's like, I think you said,
They're probably spawning outside.
pretty dead, didn't say my fucking shit.
That is weird.
Well, it did, but it expired.
Oh. I don't get how, because it had been at the same point in time.
That's what I thought. But this one, it only saved mine up to a week. That's what I thought. Not two. It only saved
Really?
mine up to a week. Not two. It only saved
Really?
mine up to a week.
Yeah. So that's got to be some kind of setting. That, or maybe because the band account's an affiliate account.
Probably, and it saves longer. If I would have known that, I would have fucking saved it. That's ass.
Shit. That we're gonna do. Losing by myself. In the Discord. Oh.
Yeah, I said we wanted to play some COD. You should ask him if he wants to play some Apex. You're like, I fucking will. I see that smirk. Amazing. Fuck you, Twitch.
Yeah, fucking clip. That's probably one of my favorite ones.
Well. Can you start it?
Yeah, I'll just join it. I'll need you to detect input from my mic. It's muted for a reason. Let's see something real quick while we're waiting. God damn it. So I can go to here, refresh this. I didn't get no views there.
They don't even have Star Citizen for the PlayStation.
Alright. You ready to start looking at some of this? Just make sure I didn't break the window. There we go. What's going on, guys? We're back.
We're back.
Got the coffee. Most important part of the day. People say breakfast, and breakfast is only the most important part of the day because you drink coffee with breakfast. So, got the Sorcerer gameplay pulled up.
I drink cigarettes and smoke coffee for breakfast.
So yeah, Twitch got rid of Jared's Necromancer VOD, so Jared may just have to talk us through some of it because I didn't play the Necro.
I can try to talk you through as much as I remember.
Yeah. And then this Sorcerer playthrough, we were both playing a Sorcerer. Played ROM, if any of y'all are
Yeah,
Gears of War fans.
in my opinion, the only problem with playing two sorcerers is you don't really have any crowd control abilities.
And nothing to tank anything. No tanks at all. So. Yeah.
Shouldn't be able to hear.
Just getting everything going again. Looking around.
Hello.
There we go. Okay. I had to double check our audio level to make sure we sounded good. Is that Chris I'm here? What's up, bro? Oh, you know, just reviewing some Diablo 4 gameplay. About an hour in it so far.
I can't hear Chris.
You can't hear Chris?
Mm-mm. Oh well.
Yeah, because I think Discord runs straight through the microphone. I'd have to adjust it. You don't want to talk to him anyway, huh? He said story of his life. So, but yeah, we're reviewing this probably another, what would you think, Jared? Another 30 minutes to an hour worth of stuff.
Roughly.
And we've definitely summed up a lot of gameplay.
In the last hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Very, very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chris, we're gonna continue on with this, and then you wanna play some Apex? He said sure.
We don't have to play Apex, Chris.
Yeah, we can play whatever. It's not a big deal. But yeah, if you want to hang out in the Discord, you can, or I can leave. That way, we're not bugging the shit out of you with all the talking about Diablo 4. And damn, Bo, we'll join back up with you as soon as we get done, sir. All right, buddy.
Bye, Chris.
He done that quick. Alright, chat, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Let's continue on. Let's do some sorcerer reviews and see what everybody thinks.
Which the
Oh.
digital deluxe edition.
Right here, Jared's talking about all the different editions where he's reviewing them. I went ahead and
It has the 4-day early
biggest one,
access.
and
Yeah, that's the big
biggest thing was the early access for us.
one. To be able to get in right away.
If y'all don't want to get the early access, don't.
And from what I'm seeing,
Just come watch us.
you share resources between.
Just come watch us play.
Yeah. Just come hang out.
Because I have
You know,
106,000.
we like chilling out.
uh,
So, sorcerer.
right now.
So,
What
they-
really
they
pushed
change
me
like
anyway
more
to do the sorcerer build
Destructive.
was watching a character in the
Take
second
it
world
with
event that we
first.
participated in. He played a sorcerer and watched him destroy.
Oh, we
like
participated in
crackling
that war.
energy,
Like
just
Cameron
like-
was there too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in a core dragon.
How it just shoots
Okay.
beams.
Yeah,
out
yeah,
of
It was another like
Stronghold.
basically a
shoots
stronghold,
the little rays of
fight.
lightning out to people.
and
I will
he
say
had
the
a
sorcerer
sorcerer
seems to
that-
be super overpowered compared to the other characters right off the bat.
Oh
Yeah, no, at the beginning of the game, the sorcerer was probably the strongest.
Definitely.
At the very,
Playing
like,
with the
from prologue, just out of
Druid and the
prologue,
barbarian at the beginning.
you couldn't touch the sorcerer's DPS. The necromancer was a close second, but
Right off
Yeah.
the jump.
not as much.
Sorcerer was definitely really.
I feel like the
powerful.
necromancer has a decent balance between being an overpowered DPS character and then also being glass cannon.
I'm trying to
The
to you.
Necro's minions was the big helping hand there. Now, when I first played this with the barbarian, this fight
I've got ranged attacks.
sucked.
Yeah, I remember playing this fight both with the barbarian and the druid, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It took like 10 minutes to beat
Now
him.
I've got
Yeah.
ranged
Just because you don't do that much
Ranged
damage at the
attacks
beginning of
make
the game.
such a
Right.
difference.
And then
Oh yeah, baby.
doing it with the sorcerers and being able to stay away from him was a big help, which is, that comes back to like we were talking about earlier, the character diversity. Being the druid and everything and having to stand up against a boss like that right off the bat was definitely a pain in the neck.
Doesn't take a hit like my druid does. But
Yeah, so like right there I'm pointing out the
So
fact
one thing
that
I did
Yeah, you
notice
can't really tank that well
is,
at this point.
neck and
tanking damage is not something we were good
glass
at
cannon.
in this
yeah, they do a lot of
point.
Glass cannons.
Now
They're traditional.
we went straight for the lightning build because, like I said, I saw that one guy and all his stuff seemed to be built around doing lightning damage, and it was overpowered. And Jared, you had
I mean,
played
I
with him
imagine
quite a
you can
bit,
set them up to be a little
and you
bit
pay more
more
attention to the abilities than I did because I was just trying to level up fast.
I'm thinking the way that he got so OP with that
Yeah, I don't think these
is
necromancers
so
very
there are these
tanky.
shrines, right? And
No, right
basically
off.
it's like crackling energy.
You
You
definitely
touch it,
have
you
to
turn it
level up
into this
close
ball
before you can
of
even
lightning,
defense.
and the lightning will just start
How you-
shocking all the enemies in the area, and it's super OP.
Taking down
And that's essentially how that sorcerer had his build made.
dodge and attack.
I'm assuming he had some kind of legendary or legendaries that made it this way. As far as I can tell, he was using an ultimate.
Yeah.
One of the ultimates
Get hit in the face
is
like that.
basically you turn into crackling energy, from what I remember.
The Crackling Energy Shrine, for anybody who didn't play it, is extremely
Two
overpowered. You
sorcerers.
turn into a ball of lightning and just kind of fly through the level, and it's like running riffs on Diablo 3. You
It's
just run
crazy.
through it really fast.
It's crazy. You do so much damage with the shrine.
Oh shit, I need
And
to.
then,
Oh, I showed it at the end.
yep.
Yeah, I'm
My
just-
barbarian play, like Jared said, it took me about 10-15 minutes to get through that first boss right there.
Yeah, and it's really the only reason that is because A, you don't do that much damage, and B, you
No.
take a lot of damage with that.
Yeah. So he wasn't able to do as much damage to me as the barbarian or the druid, but it took us a lot longer to kill him, and I didn't have all the abilities unlocked at that point like I did beforehand.
You happen to want a staff?
You got one. Take. I turned down the staff, bro.
Just looking around, getting through the open intro area, really not a lot of interesting stuff there.
And at least from the open beta, it seemed like lightning was the way to go.
Jesus
Our
fuck.
number one supporter,
You
man.
could do
we want to
frost
play the
Or
game.
cold, fire,
Oh, wait, no,
and
I
lightning.
did.
Seemed like lightning was definitely the way. Now, if you're looking to do more, I guess, crowd control, I would say probably go with more of the cold build, because I know for sure you can slow enemies and freeze enemies,
Playing your stupid
and
game.
that'll actually give you a little bit more crowd control as the sorcerer. But if you're trying to go for like a straight, just fucking DPS,
I feel
lightning
like
is definitely the way to go, in my opinion.
Definitely.
I
One
really like
ability that I found that I really loved was the teleport ability. You could use it one of two ways. You could use it to do a lot of area damage really quickly, because it was really the main area damage I could find. Or you could also use it to get out of a bad situation.
oh
It was
shit
like having
button.
a secondary dash.
Haven't found anything.
It's like, no shit. That's one thing that I will go ahead and say. I did not like how they put the dash mechanic in there. Now, I know there are some equipment that you can get that'll either A, make the cooldown shorter, or B, give you extra
At
dash.
some point,
Yep, so for my druid, I'd found something like that.
But I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of that because you have to find those pieces of equipment to do that. And that may take away from the build you're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know?
15 seconds.
I definitely like how in Diablo 3 you could just use the right stick just to roll.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Whenever you need.
15,
But,
20
you know, it definitely gives you more of a sense that, oh shit, I need to watch what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Gives you more of you look at it from more of a tactical standpoint rather than just a, hack and
Yeah.
slash.
You gotta
Fucking-
time out your cooldowns better.
Yeah. You actually got to think about what you're doing a little bit more.
Right. And that was something that in these kind of games I always lack on, is timing my cooldowns, because I'm the kind of guy I run into a fight, I drop everything all at once. That way I can do it. Towards the end of my druid plays, I was timing out my crowd control effects to where by the time one was ending, the next one was starting. And with the sorcerer, I had to kind of find that same balance. Like I said, I went straight electricity, so you'll notice throughout most of the sorcerer run,
I don't know
my ability bar wasn't even full.
what that booty will smell like.
Because
Same. Same. I did the same.
I didn't have a lot of it, and then, like we keep saying, the sorcerer for us was very good at the beginning, but the further into it we got, we noticed he started taking a lot more damage and was doing a lot less DPS, and it was, like I pointed out earlier, I found a lot less legendaries.
Yeah.
And not having those legendaries to beef your character up made it really challenging.
Yeah, I will say, as far as the sorcerer goes, if you're gonna run two sorcerers, make sure you have some kind of tank in the group. Two sorcerers and a tank would be really good for 3-man. Two sorcerers, a tank, and a rogue would be really good for 4, in my opinion. Or like you said earlier, having a barbarian, a druid, sorcerer, and an aggro. I feel like that's a meta. That's pretty meta right there.
And see, I feel like the reason saying that is a druid is a good binder between DPS and tank. The barbarian, to me, is a lot better tank. Still does some good damage, but a lot better tank. Necros and sorcerers, a lot of damage. Don't let them get hit. See, right here we managed to get into a little scuffle, and still holding good. I mean, we held good all the way up to. I loved this mission because I thought it was brutal when you get to the main fight, and
I got a ring that gives me plus 3% lightning damage.
Nice.
lot of the equipment I was finding for the sorcerer though wasn't that legendary build that I was going for, trying to get overpowered super quickly.
I want to say it really wasn't until about level 15 I really started finding some legendaries, and I think I stopped playing her at like level 18.
Yeah, so we got pretty far with the sorcerer, but we were towards the end of the open beta.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the last day that we started this.
Didn't get as in depth with it as I did say the druid or Jared did with the necro, but we definitely wanted to get a feel for it, and we got a good feel for it. So the chain lightning that you see where it just kind of flies around the room and messes up everything was very good. Did a lot of damage. Could clear an area really quickly, especially if you had 2 people running it. Like here, let's try to move up to the boss fight.
Yeah, he
We had just back at that point. Yeah. So we're getting closer to the actual boss fight here. As you can see, we're both running around running the same build. We're doing a lot of DPS. DPS was a big deal. If you're gonna run a sorcerer or something like that, I would highly suggest you make sure you're doing enough damage to keep up with the amount of damage you're taking, if not surpass it. And make sure you focus your first fire on the main boss and use that bouncing effect of the lightning to your advantage, because one of the abilities of that you can unlock was it could bounce off of you and add more damage to it.
Yeah, that's what I mainly ran as the sorcerer. I don't remember what it was called. I don't remember if they called that one Chain Lightning, or exactly what they called it, but it did more damage if it ended up arcing off of you.
Yeah. Fight.
But the way that the move works is it tries to arc off other enemies first. But like if you're in a boss fight and he's the only one in the room, you can just get it to arc off you and him, and it just amplifies the damage towards them.
Each bounce.
Each bounce.
So, and that was about the closest thing to a good area effect that you had, was that bouncing electricity. Wasn't a great area damage due to the fact that it's hitting one at a time, but
and then there's that little the one that you saw a minute ago that goes off on its own and tries to find people. But that one was pretty good. That move. Yeah, that one was pretty good.
And the problem I had is it kept trying to bounce off of her in the center, and she's immune.
Yeah.
So right here, you notice we're taking out the waves really quick and doing a lot of damage
We're
to
in
them.
World Tier 2, just for anybody watching. I want y'all to know that we're not just like playing it on the
we were doing a lot of damage at this
can.
point, taking them out really quick.
Sorcerer is that overpowered.
Yeah, just point that Justin was just making in the actual stream is, we're on Tier 2 right now. World Tier 2, we're not on World Tier 1, so, we're not just, running around marking the lobby on Tier 1. We're on Tier 2. We're dishing out a ton of damage. We're definitely dishing out more damage as the sorcerers in this fight as we were as the druid and the necro. But the overall survivability between the druid and the necro together was definitely way better in my opinion.
As y'all saw there, Jared went down. I'm taking a lot of damage trying to keep my health up, hunting health orbs. This is about the point where we started realizing
dying after this fight.
we are really underpowered for what we were trying to do.
Yeah, I will say, if you can find some legendaries that potentially give you a better cooldown on your teleport, you could spec more into the teleport and have a lot of survivability because you're dishing out damage and moving around the battlefield, not getting hit.
So I had found some armor at one point, one of the few legendaries I did find, or it may have been an ability, to where if I hit somebody with my teleport up to 4 people, it reduced the cooldown on my teleport. And also, if I did direct damage to somebody, I had a 17% chance to reset the cooldown on the teleport. And really helped out a lot being able to get in and out, do that bob and weave, basically just jump in, do some damage, jump out.
Easy collapse.
So right there we easily took on that little boss fight there. Loved that boss fight because the whole time the chick's begging you not to kill her mom, and I'm definitely telling you she was dying at the end of that for as many times she'd hit me in the face. First time I did that fight, I did it with the barbarian. Probably died about
Sounds like
6
he
times.
got level.
Just because that
level
pit
up that.
lord is a boss. He is definitely.
Yeah, he ended up
definitely
doing a
powerful.
shit ton of damage to my necromancer.
Yeah.
Like
The pit lord did a lot of damage. Now with the druid, pit lord wasn't nothing because we had ran some side quests first, and by the time I got there, I was overpowered for where we were.
he was ready to go.
Yeah. So now, Jared, something a little more broad spectrum here. What did you think of the world design?
I liked it. Overall, I thought it was a really good world design.
I thought it was very clean. A lot of it made sense. You know, you get in a lot of games like this, the dungeons start getting a bit repetitive. And we did run into some of that where, you know, to me, some of the dungeons felt like just copy and pasted dungeons. But,
Yeah, no, I will say that it did seem like they reused a lot of the dungeon design, but hopefully that was just for the beta.
yeah, just the starting area.
With the game launch, we'll have a little bit more diversity whenever it comes to the dungeons. But as far as the overall game design, it's really clean.
Oh, it was a beautiful game.
The
way
game's super smooth to play.
some of the things you saw while you're out there were really cool, and somebody that's into like horror movies, horror games, and stuff like I am.
Yeah, I like how dark this one is.
Yeah.
This one's pretty brutal.
They definitely
I
have
appreciate it.
some. If you're not into brutal, gory kind of stuff, this probably
Yeah,
isn't for you.
definitely the strongest at the beginning.
They, I mean, like at one point, there's like a scene out of the Hellraiser movie. I don't know if you've ever watched them. Dude is sitting there, skin completely peeled from his body, just chained to pillars. That's when we go help the wife and
Yeah.
have to hunt down the demon.
Yeah, I remember that.
Necro did a lot of
And
damage. I'm still.
that is a very brutal scene, and for me, this stuff is awesome. That's why.
Yeah, it was super brutal. I like how dark this one is. I like the blood and gore that they have in it.
A lot of this game kind of reminds me of the Hellraiser movies.
It almost has like a Lovecrafty vibe to it.
Probably.
I really like that.
He's just not dead.
So
I like how the game's a lot like darker in a sense, not as in like, but just the overall just color scheme and everything. It's a little bit darker than Diablo 3 was. Diablo 3 is a lot more cartoony, in my opinion, whereas this one's a little bit more gritty, grimy, and I really like the way it feels. I like the atmosphere of this one compared to Diablo 3.
yeah. I will say there was a lot of running at some points so like the first thing we found out after running our first character is just go get the waypoints.
Yep, get the
Speeds up
waypoints
the gameplay
immediately.
a lot. Because if not, there's a lot of back and forth movement, a lot of back and forth running. One thing I wish, and I don't know if this was a thing or not, I couldn't figure it out. The teleport only takes you to Kiowa Shed.
Yeah,
I really wanted to be able to like pick between cities. I think that would help out a lot. And you can with the fast travel, but I think you have to be out in the open world. So you'd have to teleport to Kiowa Shed and then teleport to another city.
exactly.
Fast travel to it.
You have to use the waypoint.
Yep. And at least that's what I noticed. I could be completely wrong and have been able to do it the whole time. I was just too dense to find it.
I mean, I never found it either. As far as I realized, it just sent you back to the Kiowa Shed.
Right here, you see me just going around playing with some new stuff I'd found and leveling up, things of that nature, going and doing this encounter. A lot of the encounters were in the same spot. And one thing me and Jared were talking about before we came back from the break, we hunted for world events the entire time we played as the sorcerers. Didn't find one.
It has to be.
Except for that last one, right? With Cameron? Was that
No, that was Druid. I was definitely my Druid in that one because I told Cameron just stay behind me the whole time.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Now here we ran
That's
the
before we decided to play
stronghold and
Sorcerer.
just ran around in circles the whole
That's
time trying
before
not
we
to die.
that's before we played Sorcerer. That's what made us decide to play Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a lot of damage, but you notice my shock is hitting the guy in the middle, and I think it's because he was immune because we had to kill the little guys off to the side, and it does quite a bit of damage. It did more damage than my Druid did for sure. But as soon as they grouped up on me, I was screwed. So it helped to have Jared in these situations and having somebody else to tank some of this damage. Because as you can see, every time I get hit, I'm losing a significant amount of health.
And it's funny because the Sorcerer even has a perk called Glass Cannon.
Yeah.
And I believe you can level it up 3 times.
Yeah. A lot of damage, a lot of
Dishes damage, but it also takes damage.
oh, and you know, it's kind of obvious. your characters that are going to take more damage versus your characters that are going to tank more damage, they you can kind of figure them out pretty quick. And I will say I seem to notice that area effects did a lot more to me as the sorcerer than they did to the druid. Like right there, I keep getting knocked down, putting me in a bad spot where I've got to run away and heal up. Still waiting on my teleports and everything to make sure they're charged up.
Yeah, overall, I would say the difference that I saw between the sorcerer and the necromancer is the necromancer didn't take nearly as much damage from attacks as the sorcerer did.
Right.
The sorcerer definitely took way more damage.
So one thing to watch for, guys, I don't know if y'all just saw it, but during these fights, I think I'll get better at this. These little lightning orbs.
That's the crackling energy.
Crackling energy makes your sorcerer do more damage. I wasn't as good at maintaining that, and it burns
as you
up
can
really
see,
quick.
it stacks up just above the XP bar at the bottom of the
So
screen.
if you can get it full, certain attacks do mass damage for that. But you got to keep it full, so you got to generate a lot of it. So you got to balance out generating crackling energy versus what you're doing damage with. So right there, I'm not the best at keeping up with that, but you can see I can fill it up a pretty good bit. At some point, I get it to where I can keep a lot of it out, but certain abilities and things burn it up really quick, and trying to maintain it, keeping it out is a pain in the neck.
Yeah, I didn't have the greatest time keeping crackling energy filled up. I still had a little bit of an issue generating it, so I never really got any full bars of crackling energy. But
And even when you did, I mean, you got very, very small amount of time to use it. And if you're not constantly trying to get it and pick it up and keep it going, you're going to be in for a bad time. Because that's where his DPS comes from, is running that crackling energy. Where the other characters we played, they were just all around powerful. You just had to know how to use the sorcerer, and I wasn't as good as balancing his out.
yeah, I will say, I liked playing the sorcerer, but not my favorite.
Yeah.
And I'm most likely still going with the necromancer in my first playthrough.
Yeah, first playthrough, definitely gonna run the druid for sure. I
I'm
did
pretty
find out
excited.
one thing difference for the sorcerers, for you PC players and you console players. I was able to use my teleport differently than Jared was. For me, I could teleport places as long as I could put my mouse there. So I could jump over like little ridges that you normally have to run all the way around. Jared, he couldn't teleport to those same locations. So me, I was able to cross the map a lot faster using the teleport ability. And also get out of bad situations if I needed to, because I could teleport to places he couldn't.
The only time I realized that I could actually teleport from place to place, like, just it was very minuscule, but whenever you get to like interaction points where you climb up stuff, that top of that ridge, I could teleport from the top to the bottom. But that's the only thing.
Yeah, I
Whereas
could teleport up
if
and
you
down.
saw this open part on the map from here, and there's like this, part of the map in the way, you could still teleport there. I couldn't.
I could jump around obstacles.
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
So just something to keep in mind, console players and PC players. That was the biggest difference I noticed between them, is me being able to teleport to different areas and use that to get in and out of combat better and do pick damage with the damage that teleport does bring with it, especially when I had that recharge available on it that charged it up faster. As far as the sorcerer goes, I mean, that's really the gist of the sorcerer there.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to put on the sorcerer.
I don't think we played him enough to be like full sorcerer review here.
Yeah, no. Just figured we'd give our thoughts.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sorcerer was very good.
Sorcerer dishes out a ton of damage in the beginning of the game, from what we saw. Once you get to about level between 15 and 18, all the other characters, their DPS starts to catch up, and you start to take a lot of damage compared to the other characters. And like Justin and I said, we didn't have the chance to play with the rogue, so don't really know
can't vouch for the rogue either
I don't
way.
really know how the rogue's doing this time.
Crackling energy or the
So,
lightning.
all that being said, so Jared, tell us a little bit about the Necro because we don't have the gameplay footage to watch it, but you know, you definitely played the shit out of it.
So from, let's see, in Diablo 3, I went with the bone spikes build more. So this one, I tried to go for more of the blood build. And that's one of the biggest differences I can say between the Necromancer as the DPS and the Sorcerer as the DPS. Is with the blood build, you can siphon blood and it gives you health while taking dishing damage to the enemy. So your survivability is already higher than Sorcerer. Trying to remember all the secondary abilities.
How's it do?
So the primary abilities, I know you still had the bone spikes, then you had the blood siphon, then you had reap, which is the scythe. I don't remember what the last one was. Dismember, I believe. And it kind of works like blood siphon, but it's not a blood ability. I believe it's a shadow ability from the shadow damage. That's one thing I did notice with the Necromancer, the shadow damage. One of the abilities that I had cast out a shadow damage ward that just melted. Absolutely melted people. The corpse explosion, really good in this game. Does a lot of damage comparatively to the last game. And as I said earlier, you can actually put more ability points into one skill. I believe you put max 5 ability points into one skill.
Some of them. They had a couple of them that I noticed just in the Druid platform. The smaller abilities, they only let you put 3 in there, and then of course the ones that branch off, I think I could only put 1 in each one. But the main abilities, it was 5.
Yeah. The main abilities. So the way that the abilities work is you have the core ability, which you could level up like 5 times, and then you have the first upgrade. The first upgrade you get to keep, and then you get two other variants, and you get to choose between those 2. You can't have all 3. So like with the corpse explosion, one of them made it to where it did more damage and and the first one had a higher damage radius. The second, the one at the top, it gave it like a decay aura, so it did damage over time instead of explode. So it just covered the area in like an AoE. But it definitely, if you're trying to just take out the trash, I'd recommend just running the corpse explosion.
Let's do it.
Just exploding all the ads.
So is the crackling energy just
It works really well.
I remember we did a lot of damage with the corpse explosion.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about the corpse explosion is one of the passive abilities that you get. You can level it up 3 times, and I believe with that last level up, you get a 12% drop rate on corpses. So as you're playing, as you're killing things, you already have that base 12% drop. And I believe there are other legendaries that'll boost that ability possibly. I didn't get any of them, so hopefully.
Yeah, that was.
And then whenever I was using the Reaper minions, they, I believe, had a 17% chance or a 15% chance to rip flesh off of the person they were attacking. So I didn't have to wait for them to die for them to leave a corpse. Once the corpse was left on the ground, I could just blow it up and, already have that 12% drop rate. So it made it to where I could just almost consistently use a corpse, which is dope, because I was dishing out shit tons of damage.
Yeah. Definitely. The Necro definitely was a good all-around character to have in the group.
Necro's a great support character in my opinion.
And Necro definitely has several ways to play it. Like we pointed out earlier, the Necro would get in the way of the Druid if you ran the minions a lot. But
You see, now that I'm thinking about it, was it the minions that were getting in the way, or was it whenever I used the bone prison?
It was so both of them really fucked me a lot.
I know the bone prison for sure fucked you.
Yeah, it would do one of two things. It would either trap me away from being able to fight the boss, or it would trap me in there next to it so I couldn't get out in a bad situation.
Yeah, that was the bone prison, I know for sure.
Now the minions, I did run into several issues where the minions would have like the boss surrounded and I couldn't get in there and hit. It wouldn't let me do damage. I would have to send my minions in to basically clear yours out of the way and then I could go in.
Didn't even stand it.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that's something that needs a touch up for sure, is with the Necromancer's minions. Make sure it doesn't get in the way of group play. Make sure that it's not getting in the way of the tank. If the tank is getting in there, getting the aggro.
And I think that just comes down to watch how you play your characters, you know, build to the group strength, not just independent strength. Because minions may be the way to go for some of you, but if you're going to play with somebody that plays as the druid or the barbarian, things like that need to be up in their face, may do like Jared did, fall back to corpse explosion. Because we're going to create a lot of corpses off our area effects.
Well, granted, and that was the good thing about having that 12% drop rate, is it also worked off of the allies. So if the allies killed somebody, you know, it would most likely drop a fucking corpse for me, which made it that much better.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say make it to where the minions do not get in the way. Because I never had an issue with the druid's worm. I never had the issue with the druid's werewolves. Never had the issues with the druid's werebear. Anything like that. So if you can make it to where the necromancer doesn't hinder the group in any way, I think that'll just make it that much better.
Yeah.
As far as group play goes. Because I think it was super unfortunate that I had to completely change my build to not interfere with the way the group's playing.
Right.
But you know, playing in a group, I definitely want to cater more towards how I can do in the group. And as far as crowd control abilities go, as far as I remember, there were only two. There was the one that you'd see me throw down a lot, which was the big, like, pentagram-looking thing on the ground. I don't remember what the other one did, but I believe the one I was throwing on the ground was to Cremify, which made the enemies, I believe, take more damage initially. It either made them take more damage, or A, it slowed them down and made them take less damage, or B, slowed them down and made it to where you took less damage from them.
And that may have been what it was. So at one point on my druid, I had an ability to where he just turns to a bear and screams really loud, and they do 50% less damage for X amount of time.
Right.
So that was like the first thing I did in any fight, especially since I was always beelining the bosses, fighting the bosses head on. And that really helped having your ability with it, because you could throw it out there, keep it there, and so I was taking a lot less damage being right in their face. And then whenever they would wear off, it'd be almost time for mine to reset, and that gave me time to throw up the earthen bulwark where I got my shields up and didn't have to worry about taking it.
And that's one thing I really like about the synergy between the druid and the necromancer, is I could keep throwing those down. And the crowd control ability, the way that Justin was running his class, is he does more damage to crowd control enemies. So that just made it to where we were just dishing out that much more damage.
It was
as a group.
We became very powerful, very, very, very quickly.
It was a good beta. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I wish is we had an extra weekend.
Yeah. And you never know, maybe they'll come out and say, hey, we're going to open it up this weekend, you know,
right.
And let people play it. And that's what
let people play the characters they already had, let them get up to like 50 or something. Hopefully.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
It'd definitely be nice to at least get in there and play get the druid special ability to try.
That would be fucking awesome.
That way we can really see what they have to offer them and the barbarians. So, overall, Jared, what do you think? You think Diablo 4 is gonna be pretty good, like I do?
Oh yeah. I think Diablo 4 has great replayability. As far as all the characters go, I know for sure I'm gonna have at least 4 playthroughs, at least. I'm going Necromancer first time, possibly Druid the second time, possibly Barbarian the second time, or possibly Sorcerer.
Yeah.
those are the picks of mine.
I'm thinking I'm gonna run one. I'm gonna run one of each character, and then I want to experiment with the hardcore character some because of that aspect of dying and losing all your progress. It's an interesting concept for me. You know, it's kind of aggravating to spend all that time and lose that character. But then again, it teaches you to be better at the game, and makes you use different builds than you normally would.
Who knows? Maybe we could make a stream out of it.
Oh no, we're gonna make a good stream out of it.
We could just start a hardcore character one day and be like, all right,
To death.
this is the hardcore character run, and start the timer.
And die. But anything you're hoping to see that we haven't seen in there?
I hope the Necromancer's ultimate abilities are a little bit better whenever the game launches. And you know, maybe it's centered around you get a certain piece of legendary gear, you know, that'll boost the damage of that certain ultimate. But
Yeah, as far as me, the only thing I'm hoping to see is more server-based, making sure the servers are a little bit better at handling what's going on. I know with the open beta, they're probably still working on the servers, so I'm hoping to see that they're fixed so I don't have the rubber banding issues, leaving town issues, I don't have to do as much teleporting. And I would like to see if I pick up the gold, Jared gets it as well. If we're partied together, I'm not saying everybody running around the world in the lobby picks up gold for everybody. That would just be ridiculous.
I know for sure they're supposed to be adding a dedicated gym tab so the gyms don't take up inventory space.
Yeah, that would be nice because
That's super
at
useful.
some point, once I maxed the druid out, I was literally just collecting gems so I could stick them in a...
Oh, the other thing I would say is the way that you bind skills to certain things is kind of confusing.
Weird.
Because like whenever I went to, because at one point whenever I unlocked the Book of the Dead, I had messed with my minions, and I'd accidentally de-equipped them,
Oh, yeah.
and I couldn't figure out how to re-equip them.
Yeah.
And it was starting to become very aggravating. So I went to the skills tab, you know, and it says assign. You go there, it doesn't give you the option to assign your minions.
Yeah.
So what you actually have to do, and I don't remember how to do it off memory,
Shrine called Lethal Strike.
is I think you have to pull up that screen, but then press a different button, and it pulls up a smaller screen to where you can actually assign that ability to your wield,
Okay.
or your scroll, or your...
See, I thought you would run into an issue at one point where you used something out of the Book of the Dead and it made it where you weren't allowed to use minions. You had
It
to
is.
re-equip.
That's what it was. And then whenever you decide you want to use them again, you actually have to physically re-equip them to your bar.
That's one thing I liked about running it on the PC versus, say, the console, is I was able to select the ability and be able to just drag it
Click
down,
and
put
drag.
it where I wanted it. So be able to really nitpick where everything went.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
I
know
guess
how it works
that
on
is
the
a
PS5.
downside between the console and the PC. Is it's a little bit more confusing to get those abilities assigned. And the reason that the ability got taken off of my wheel is because you have like I said, you have 3 different variations, and there's also, so you have 3 different variations you can do on that particular one. And I believe there are 3 different builds you can do with that particular minion. So like you had the regular minions, which were sword and shield, then you had the defense minions, and then you had the reaper minions. And for each one of those, you had 3 different variations you could choose for it. The very last one, you could choose to sacrifice it, and it'll give you extra. So for like the mages, if you decided to sacrifice the mages, I believe it gave you more mana per second, or something like that. I'm drawing a blank on the actual perk at the moment because it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks since we played it. Yeah.
So, but yeah, guys, I think that about wraps up our review of it ourselves. I'm gonna drop it over on. I'm gonna break it up in probably 20-minute segments for YouTube. That way, y'all can go back and watch this if y'all are ever curious about what we thought. Whatever, you know, you can go there, comment, tell us we're stupid for all we care. Yeah, guys, and for anybody on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, follow us, hit the bell. Anybody, go follow the Twitch if y'all want to come hang out with us, watch us live. Like I said, I'm Justin, aka Calm Big Dog. I'm the one you see from the Lie Awake band screen. And then you got Jared, aka King Garage. He's King Garage on Twitch. Go watch him for his POV. If we're playing FPSs, suggest his because he's a little bit better at them.
He suggests mine, but I'm going to say I suggest the band page because you can't hear all of our voices from my stream.
Right. So we do run Discord.
So if you end up going to my stream, you'll only hear my voice, so you won't hear the complete conversation. So I generally try to direct y'all to the Lie Awake band page, but you know.
If you're more in it for the gameplay, go check him out. If you're more in it for the group,
the group aspect,
yeah, the group content of it, because all the guys that we play with, Chris, Cameron, absolutely hilarious.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, man. Thank you for the follow, bro. We appreciate you. And but all right, guys, we're gonna end it there.